Hello, what is up everyone? It is Truth Reviews here. I hope you are all having a fantastic day. I hope you're all staying well. If you are, leave me a like, give me a subscribe. If you enjoy this video, please do feel free to hit the bell once you sub. If you don't enjoy this video, please do let me know. Also, feel free to comment. I do love, I go through all the comments I possibly can, and I absolutely love interacting with you guys, and you know, it's just amazing and brilliantly. Also, give me suggestions on what you want to see next, the different content, what games I'll cover. I will cover anything. I got a review on Rambo 1, First Blood coming out, so yes. And I have a review on Call of Duty Cold War and a review on the Mario film when it releases. All scheduled to come out, so I know the channel's called Truth Reviews. I will be doing some proper in-length reviews. Pyrocynical does side videos, and that's sort of what I'm doing at the minute. Anyway, thank you guys for your time. Let's get right into the video. Far Cry 4 released in what I call the peak graphical year for video games. Now, I know that sounds very technical, but basically what it just means for me is the year that graphics and graphic fidelity really picked up in video games. I mean, like, for example, Call of Duty. You can see Call of Duty Ghosts. This is what Call of Duty Ghosts looks like. This is what Advanced Warfare looks like. I mean, the difference is immaculate, you know what I mean? So this, for me, was the year where games graphics picked up completely, like, hugely. For example, here's Far Cry 3, here's Far Cry 4. It's insane. Anyway, but today's video is on Far Cry 4, and I wanted to talk about the open world. And the reason why I'm starting off by talking about graphics is because Far Cry, to me, graphically has always been ahead of its time in terms of graphics and animation and art design. The Far Cry universe has always looked absolutely stunning in its graphics. I mean, you can even look at that from the Far Cry 3 game. And I mean, Far Cry 3 released in 2012, and it was ahead of its time then, really. I mean, the lighting and the shaders, they work really well. Of course, unless you go into a cave, then it all falls apart. But hey, graphics for the time of Far Cry 4 were amazing and just beautiful. And as this video is about Far Cry 4's open world, I really wanted to talk about the graphics of Far Cry 4. And usually I don't do this. I don't like to judge any games on their graphics unless the graphics look really stunning or really bad. But Far Cry 4's art and graphics has always stood out to me. The whole feeling of Kyrat and like the country as a whole, the graphics really help show, you know, the atmosphere of the whole game, and not even that, but you know, as I said before, Kyrat as a whole. So anyway, let's take a look at Far Cry 4's open world. How I'm going to structure this video is until the 5-minute mark, or just over, will be all the positive things about Kyrat and Far Cry 4's open world. Because Far Cry 4's open world really does fascinate me. So let's begin right now. Okay, so my favourite thing about Kyrat and about Far Cry 4 as a whole is, first of all, the setting. Far Cry 4's setting is in Kyrat, which is a made-up, fictional country, in fact. I believe it's located near India, and it has this very sort of... It does have an Indian vibe to it, almost, in terms of the culture and the atmosphere. You can find beautiful, just articulate temples, and then in the distance are these amazing mountain ranges. The atmosphere of the open world is gorgeous. One of my complaints about Far Cry 3 was that the NPCs you do interact with, they all mostly come from Bad Town. Yes, I'm not joking, that is what it's named. Anyway, but most of the time they all come from there. In Far Cry 4, you meet NPCs all around, and whilst they're pretty brainlit, they're pretty brainlit individuals, it is still fantastic to see these beautiful little villages and just the people walking around doing their everyday things. So for me, the atmosphere of the open world is beautiful. Having it set in a city makes it feel just different to any other game I've played, really, and I won't lie. The atmosphere and the art design of Kyrat is amazing. Like I said before, having these amazing, beautiful, articulate designed Buddhist temples, and then the mountain ranges in the background, to these tiny little wooden shacked houses, with the fields and the jungles. Far Cry 4's open world looks astonishing, and while I personally, and we'll come to this later for things I don't like, but while I personally feel there's not a lot to do in Far Cry's open world, the first half of Kyrat is decently well looking. While I feel like the jungle and foliage is a bit too much, I think it still looks very good. The first half of Karat definitely has the most to do. In fact, it's got a lot to do. Like missions, a lot of missions, driving missions, climbing missions, timed missions, defending missions. So the open world in this half has a lot to do, which is great. But the second half is the half that I really liked. Once you play through, like, I'd say about 6 hours of Far Cry 4, it starts to wear on you, the first section of the map. It really starts to all look the same and just feel the same, especially the more you travel around. So when you get to the second section where you have to, fight over the bridge and take that area of Karat, it looks like this almost desolate, violent wasteland, and I absolutely love the art design of, I believe, do let me know if I get this wrong, but I think it's the west side of Karat. I think Raffi on the radio mentions that it's the west side that Pagan controls, like, for the whole game. But the west side of Karat, if it is that, the side over the bridge looks gorgeous, like absolutely stunning. Alright, now let's talk about things I really don't like about the open world, and there is quite a bit, but it's quite evenly balanced. Okay, so here's what I don't like about the open world. So, Far Cry 3's open world, going back to 2012, was very vast, was very vast, and it had multiple islands, whereas Far Cry 4 is one big chunk. Now, the problem with this is Far Cry 3 had, beautiful, colourful water, colourful jungles, but because of where Far Cry 4 is set, after playing the game for so long, that initial wow of the world can go, and you're left with a very ugly shell. Now, don't get me wrong, I really do love the gritty feeling of Far Cry 4, however, the colour palette, it sort of just dies, and that's why I don't like the original side after a while. The first couple hours are fine, but like I say, it wears on you so quickly when all you're looking at are these dark greens and these dark greys and these dark blacks. Like, it really starts to wear on you eventually. The other thing that I'm just not a massive fan of is how little there is to really do. Okay, great. Far Cry 3 only had one town in the entire game, pretty much. Far Cry 4 now has loads, but there are still hardly any side missions. So, what's the point? I think there's even fewer side missions in Far Cry 4 than 3. So, there's no real incentive to stick around towns. And these towns, oh my gosh, guys, they are beautiful. These little village towns, I love the aesthetic of them. But what's the point in going somewhere where you can't do anything? Also, the distribution of where side missions are in Far Cry 4 is very odd. You'll capture a town, and it'll be repopulated with people and army men. And that's where you'll go, or Golden Path, sorry, and that's where you'll go to get missions. But the missions will either be pickup missions, driving missions, or holdout missions. That's it. You hardly get any side missions from civilians, and if they are, they're literally one of those three that I just mentioned. It's very frustrating, which makes the open world boring to, You may argue that I'm being unfair here because it's not really the open world, but I'd still class it as it is because the open world needs to have enough to do for the open world to work, you know what I mean? Like, you can't have... It's like GTA 5. Imagine they just had the city, and that was it. It was just a city. Like, it wouldn't work, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, the first side, it can get boring, and there's not a lot to do. And the other problem with that is, it gets even worse on the second side, because there's even fewer to do on that west side. Once again, I do apologise if I'm getting that wrong. I think it is the west side. But when you go over that bridge, that area, it has even less to do, because you're in such a late game area, so it just doesn't feel as good. Also, because of how jungly the whole place is, that no massive places stands out. Of course, you've got all these like Buddhist temples and things, but no particular one stands out, because there's so many of them. The same with the jungles. And the towns and the massive cities that there are, like there are some big cities in Far Cry 4, they're all, like, you can't get into any of them. Because most of the time, they're for, like Pain City, I know, what an original name, but Pain City, that you do a mission in there with that interrogator guy where you kill him, in Pain City, but after that, it's just nothing. No one lives there, you can't really get in there, and it's just sort of there. That's what frustrates me. Imagine if, in Karat, because remember, Karat is a country, so imagine if you had an actual cool city location, like an actual big like city to go to in the middle of this jungle. I think that would be a lot cooler. Anyway though, these are just my thoughts and feelings about Far Cry 4. Overall, I adore Far Cry 4. There's so much to talk about. There's so much to love. I had this video. I was trying to debate in my head what different topics I should even talk about in this video about Far Cry 4, because there's so much I want to talk about. I want to talk about the villains, I want to talk about AJ, I want to talk about the story. Hell, maybe I should just do a review on Far Cry. But hey, let's take things at one step at a time. Thank you guys ever so much for watching. If you like the video, leave a like. If you want to sub, please do sub. My only fan, no, just kidding. But yeah, thank you guys ever so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. This has been Truth. Stay safe. Peace.